Good morning and welcome to Love Every Moment, coming to you today from Juneau, Alaska. Today's verse is 1 Peter 3:2. As they observe your chaste and respectful behavior. Now obviously this comes after verse 1, and I have the link up here, which talked about wives be submissive to your husbands, and the implication being non-Christian husbands, which sounds really, wow, really? She's supposed to obey a non-Christian husband? What if he doesn't deserve it? Well, that's the whole point. You are to obey even though they don't deserve it. Just as we are to obey the government, though they may not deserve it, we are to obey our bosses, even though they may not deserve it. A wife is supposed to obey her husband, even if he doesn't deserve it. And it says further in verse 1, that they may be won without a word by the behavior of their wives. There is something I forgot to mention last week, and I should put this up. Because of that phrase in this verse, some unmarried Christian girls may think, oh, I love this non-Christian guy over here, and I'm going to marry him so that I can convert him, because that's what this verse says. I have to tell you, I highly recommend against that. I cannot endorse the idea of being purposely unequally yoked so that you may, and that's a may, be able to win them without a word. I believe that this verse 1 talks about a situation in which the husband and wife were married and neither was a Christian, but at some point the wife converted, right, found Christ, and now her behavior is suddenly different. And the husband would say, wow, I knew you before, but you're really different now. You've got a lot of love coming out of you now. And that's what should really make the difference there. So there's one other point that some people raise with this verse. They say, gee, submissive to an unbelieving husband, wouldn't that possibly lead to abuse? And here's something to think about on that. Remember last week that I said, well, if an unbelieving husband asks his wife to rob a bank or something, well, now that's against the government, and that's against God's laws. She can't obey that because then she'd be breaking both the government laws and God's laws. So she would have to say no. So here's something to think about. Is domestic abuse against the law? As far as I know, it is. And because of that, she cannot be a participant on one side or the other in domestic abuse, because she has to obey the government. It's just something to think about. If it means she has to separate or something to get out of that situation, then at least she's not going to allow the household to be in a situation that's breaking the law, a situation of domestic abuse. Now in today's verse, it says, as they observe your chaste and respectful behavior. Chaste, of course, means pure, the idea being sexually pure. So obviously, if she's a real Christian, she's not going to be sleeping around. Even though, again, he's a non-Christian, she should be faithful to him sexually. Then it says respectful behavior. Now I get it. It's not easy to respect a non-Christian, and again, if he doesn't deserve it. But let's look at a cross-reference here, and that is Titus 2:5, which is written to women. Women are to be sensible, pure. That's the exact same word in Greek as the chaste word in today's verse. Workers at home, kind, being subject to their own husbands, so that, and does it say, so that the man can have dominion over her? It doesn't say that. So that the word of God will not be dishonored. It's all about honoring God. This is God's will. And ultimately, what's the best will? For her to love him. For him to hopefully notice, wow, there's a different kind of love coming out of her. And that's why we should choose to love, and submission being part of that every moment, because then we're going to love every moment. I'm your average wretch, and I hope you have a great week.